Hi, hello, and welcome to LearnStroke IAS classes by Arjun. And you're with me, Arjun R. Shankar, and we are discussing the editorial analysis for 2024 examination, especially from the perspective of current affairs. So let's quickly move on to the important editorials of the day and let's get the brief analysis. So here we go to the first important thing being women want change, society needs change. So this is completely an article from the perspective, say you can mark it from GS paper 1 perspective, which clearly talks about Indian society. And apart from society, it talks about the role of women in India, because in GS paper 1 itself we have the role of women and women related organization and women's empowerment and the upliftment of women is the general theme that we have to discuss in this. So let's quickly apply the IAS filter here and get the most important points right now. So first of all, it talks about global gender gap report. So it's very important to know that such reports are very, very important from the perspective of UPSC prelims examination, because since last so many years, if you go by the trend of the examination, you see that such reports are often asked, like which is this report? This X report is actually brought out by which organization? World Bank, IMF, or UNICEF, or ILO, International Labor Organization. So anything, it can be anything. So it's important to know the global gender gap report. It was first published in 2006 by the WEF, or the World Economic Forum. So what is the 17th edition? Now it is the 17th edition of global gender gap report, which clearly said that first of all, it will take 131 years to close if progress continues at the right rate. So we are talking at the gender gap. So we are discussing the gender gap. If this is the development that is going to happen, it is going to take more than 131 years to close this gender gap. So definitely we know there is women needs more empowerment and more opportunities. And in a populous South Asian country like India, it was general. It will even take 149 years to close the gender gap. So don't you think it's a big time period? So that brings us the global gender gap report. That means lot needs to be run, a lot of things has to be done for the benefit of women and women's empowerment and closing the gender gap and giving more opportunities. So that means the important thing is we have to give more opportunities for the women. That is the key important thing. And let's take about reservation. So definitely gender reservation is an effective means of promoting gender equity, and that concerns, and it stresses that all women should have a level playing field in all fields. So whether it be even when you talk about whether it be administration, civil services, or even if you have gone through the civil services notification, you must have seen that in the bottom head footnote, UPSC clearly say mandates that UPSC is encouraging the women to come forward and strive. So please do check out the notification and check the footer. In the notification, you can see that in the footer, just for a curiosity, you can see that a special encouragement to the women to write civil service examination is already given. So I think you can actually check it out. And whether it be any fields, administration, legislature, or in the parliament and judiciary, whatever, women should actually come forward, and that also includes sports. A lot of articles recently came up regarding the women's sporting in India. So whatever be the fields, women should actually come up. That is an important. So please do remember the report also. And let's discuss some of the important statistics that they want to show. And one clear is women outperform men in academics, with more women graduating from colleges and entering the workforce. So when you talk about the workforce management in India, or to get a social profiling or a gender profiling of the workforce in India, we can very clearly understand that the statistics say that women are outperforming men, graduating more from the colleges and entering into workforce. However, this trend doesn't translate into leadership positions. So that is another important crisis. That means when you talk about you can just check the flow chart here. Women are getting graduated. They are getting graduated and they're getting good jobs. So that is something that we can see. Women are getting graduated, outperforming men and getting more jobs. But that jobs, when you see that, when you enter the job, what about the top leadership? Women are not getting the top leadership in that. So that is something that you should actually look at it. So in that regard, definitely everywhere you can see that male dominance, and the women's reservation bill passed in the Indian Parliament is actually a significant step in achieving gender parity in politics. So definitely, I think women should actually come into leadership position. So that is an important point that the article is trying to establish here. And let's check out the other important, the privileges and nepotism. I think you know the meaning of the word nepotism. You can say that uh, if you are already in there, everybody relating to your family, friends, or it's you will actually create a small group. It's a nepotistic thing where your close people are always associated with the major jobs. So in India also, you can actually take it in the examples of a global community. You can say where I think most of the places we have nepotism. But how many women in leadership positions have privileged backgrounds with access to higher education? How many of them have access to higher education and influential mentors? And it questions whether an ordinary Indian woman without advantages can attain top leadership position. What is your opinion on that? In today's world, in which all segment and which all sectors can we see women occupying the top leadership positions? I think when you talk about women's empowerment, that is the level of empowerment that we should be looking for the women. It's not getting jobs. Now the bar has gone up. It is actually to creating more what good leadership position. And definitely women's reservation bill is a prompt implementation. But the problem is, regarding the women's reservation bill, there are important things like census, the new census, and again something called as delimitation. We need to get a green signal on all these things to implement the women's reservation bill. So the readjustment of seats according to the 1991 census to speed up the process. So the article clearly says that let's not wait for say 2026 or any particular important year. Let's actually go by 1991 census and adjust the delimited, get the number of seats, readjust the number of seats, and implement women's reservation bill so fast. So that is good for them. So need to rectify historical gender disparities and enact quick change. And it says that the society and women are ready for this change. There is no reason for further delay. Women folk, you can say that women are ready. There is no point of waiting. That is what the article clearly says. And let me give you a good question also. What are the key findings of the 17th edition of Global Gender Gap Report, and how does it impact the timeline for achieving gender equality worldwide? If we do not go, we have to wait plus 100 plus years, we have to wait. So that is the key important findings. And let's quickly move on to another important area, GS paper 2. International relationship is another important thing. The Maldives, the evolution of democracy, because Maldives is definitely in the news for the election. For the new election, the new head of the state has actually come, and it has again created, when you talk about the biggest thing, always remember when you talk about the Maldives election, when you always talk about Maldives, the international relations perspective that you can understand is, in Maldives, always understand there are two important major players. One is India and the other is China. So whatever happens in Maldives, international diplomats clearly say that it is either it will be an effect of India, or it will have an effect of China. So always the election in Maldives or the international relations of Maldives is seen as a China-India competition. So what are the new important aspects that Maldives will have to look at it? Let's clearly understand, apply the IAS filter, and let's go to the important points here. So the most important article, the editorial, completely talks about the recent presidential election in the Maldives. And you know that the outgoing president, the president's election in Maldives, and what are the factors behind the president's defeat, and the challenges and choices facing the newly elected president, and what is it going to be the new global dynamics that will affect the Maldives, with a focus of India in the region. So these are the important things that I've already told. what is going to be India's role in this Maldivian politics, and what is the challenge of Maldives, because they have a huge global dynamic issue that they have to solve quickly. So what is it that we should be looking at? And for the first time, that you should be happy that democracy thrives in Maldives. Again, the recent presidential election clearly say that people are believing in democracy. That is the biggest example that is, it is thriving on democracy, means they are believing in the concepts of democracy. So for the good time, the country is able to do free and fair elections in the country. Again, that is also a good positive thing. Democracy is there. So again, what are some of the important voter concerns apart from India and China? These are big things for international diplomacy, but the common things you can see, people, the common voters concerns are economic well-being, like employment, getting employed, getting good housing, improvement in the tourism industry. Maldives is a fantastic tourism destination. Getting more education, healthcare are all the primary concerns of the voter, especially the younger generation. The bigger international policies do not affect these people. They want, these are the important things Maldives is looking forward to develop. And again, what are some of the other important point? The election is not a China versus India match. I think the portrayal of the election as a competition between India and China suggests that this oversimplifies the complex dynamics of Maldivian politics, and it is often, ignoring the priorities of Maldivian people. So we should never look at it as the Maldivian politics. Never look at it the prism of India and China. Apart from India and China, there are many other developmental priorities. The word is developmental priorities. There are many developmental priorities for the people of Maldives. So look at that first, and look what are the historical shift in the leadership position. And you can see that no incumbent president, incumbent means people who is in power, no incumbent president has been re-elected in the Maldives, reflecting the electorate's empowerment in democracy. So that means people who value democracy, how, no matter how many times people will elect you. And the biggest reason for the defeat of Ibrahim Soli, the outgoing president, is you can see that it's because of departure of charismatic leader Mohammad Nasheed, and the split between the ruling party. So one is the split between the ruling party and the departure of Mohammad Nasheed, the charismatic leader. So they have all the split and lost of, they have lost charismatic leader Mohammad Nasheed. So that is again the reason for the defeat of Mr. Mohammad Salih. Again, the new president and relationship. So the newly elected president Mohammad Muizzu will need to navigate domestic and foreign policy challenges. So he has to address a lot of foreign and domestic policy challenges. And the key concern is whether to have India first. That is a key question. Whether to have a India first policy or India out policy. What are we going to do? Whether to have the India first or India out policy. So India, you can say adopt an India out policy like the former president Yamin, because the former president Yamin had an India out policy. Whether we need to have an India first, or what you need to have is a balanced foreign policy. You need to have a balanced foreign policy of keeping India and China and many other countries. So what is going to be Maldives is going to have a domestic and foreign policy challenges to be solved. And you can see the changing global landscape. And Maldives should also consider foreign policy in the changes of not only India and China. You should look at it from the perspective of BRI, China's Belt and Road Initiative. So all of you who do not know about BRI, please do find out what do you mean by China's Belt and Road Initiative. It's very important that you really know about it. And also the dynamics that is happening in South Asia. So Maldives, apart from India, China, focus on other important things. The dynamics of South Asia and many other things will be really good. So what is India's role? Definitely India should support Maldives, and India should strengthen the regional diplomacy. It's high time that we should strengthen the regional diplomacy. Like let's have initiatives like Colombo Security Conclave, and make Maldives as an observer, because Maldives is currently an observer in the BIMSTEC. So all the people who do not know about BIMSTEC, find out what is Bay of Bengal initiative for multi-sectoral technical and economic cooperation. So what is the role of BIMSTEC? why was BIMSTEC formed, and Maldives is an observer. So these are the things how we can make Maldives a part of our development. And we need to do greater resources and engagement to build trust and understanding with the Maldives people. So help them with resources, engage with them. So all these are important steps. So this is important from the perspective of India Maldives relationship. Two important questions: what were the key factors that contributed to the defeat of outgoing presidents in the Maldives recent election, and how do historical pattern of leadership change play a role in Maldivian politics? Number one, in the context of evolving global dynamics and the new leadership in Maldives, what options and challenges does the nation face in shaping its foreign policy? And how might this impact its relationship with India? This is also a good question that you can try writing it. So please do check out these important areas. And moving on to the next important editorial is, we need evidence-based traditional medicine. So this brings us to GS paper 2, health, because it talks about Ayurveda. So this is actually written from the perspective of Ayurveda, where the article clearly cites that Ayurveda does have a lot of scope, and Ayurveda needs to be developed on a lot of basis. Similarly, we also get I think last time we discussed an editorial which clearly criticized homeopathy on its bigger terms. So let's discuss. And in this context of Ayurveda, not only on Ayurveda, what is the status of traditional medicines and the growth in India? Is India going to, like we say, health? We normally say health is everything that we normally say is regarding the allopathy or the English medicine. So what is going to be the health status? Are we going to have an integrated health system? Are we going to have an integrated health system by which we are including everything, uh, like modern allopathic medicine, Ayurveda, Unani, Siddha, uh, homeopathy, everything? Are we going to have an integrated health system? What is your opinion on that? Let's quickly apply the IAS filter and get to the important points that we need to be coming up. So what is the position of traditional medicine? You can say that we should explore the role of traditional medicines in the modern world. Not only depending on the modern medicine, it's important that what is going to be the role of traditional medicine in the modern world, and how it should coexist with the modern medicine. So the main question is it really coexisting? That is the question. And like Ayurveda, Unani, and Siddha have their own practices and treatments in India. So they have their own historical background in India. So the article says that we should coexist with it should coexist with the modern medicine and the evolution of modern medicine. And you should see that the modern medicine uh, need not be a Western influence, but you see that modern medicines became science based. It was more science based in the 19th century, develop which is actually a development in the advancement in medical technology, including surgery and diagnostics. So you can say that the modern technology, the modern medical technology, the modern development in surgery and diagnostics made modern medicine more modern. So modern medicine was not that modern. It was based on science, but the technology, the new technology in diagnostic, surgery, everything made it modern. So it is science based that continuously tests and refines therapies. This is the key word. The modern medicine is actually continuously testing and depending on new therapies. It is keeping on refining. So science based and modern technology. So that is the evolution of modern medicine. And again, what you can see a scientific approach. So do not believe that modern medicine is not completely inherently Western, but it follows a scientific approach to evaluate therapies. It continuously advances, self corrects its evidence. So this is a very, very important point. The modern medicine do not believe that it's very inherently Western. It continuously follows a scientific approach, number one, and it continuously advances and self corrects on the scientific evidence. So point number two, self correcting scientific evidence. So this is the scientific approach of modern medicine, which has actually made modern medicine more popular. And what about Ayurveda's epistemology? The Ayurveda's basis may not align with the modern science, but Ayurveda believes in the basing the diagnosis and therapies on solid understanding of the human body. So this is what Ayurveda believes in. It is completely not completely like a modern medicine, but it bases everything on solid understanding of human body. And this is what it distinguishes from Ayurveda from the other faith-based system. And definitely you can see the challenges within Ayurveda medicine is the Ayurvedic medicines often consist of combinations, making it challenging to evaluate their interactions scientifically. So Ayurveda does have a lot of combinations, which is very good from the Ayurvedic perspective, but scientifically, it's a bit challenging to find out what contributes to what. So a new method should be developed to assess Ayurvedic therapies. So definitely, you are calling forward to have a new method in which you can method or assess the Ayurvedic therapies without compromising their holistic nature. So again, these are some of the challenges you need to scientifically make them. And what are the challenges with Ayurvedic medicine? And the government policy should prioritize the health of the people. So one thing is, it should promote evidence-based evaluation of traditional medicine systems and retain useful practices and integrate them into comprehensive healthcare systems. So very important. So we should promote evidence-based evaluation of traditional medicine. So definitely, in order to have evidence-based evaluation, so evidence-based evaluation is the key word that you should remember. When you talk about the traditional medicine system, you should create new methods for evidence evaluation and use the most important practices. Like there are some important practices which are exclusive and integrate them into the comprehensive healthcare system. So that is what we have to be very clear on that. And again, you can see the balancing skepticism and and the open-mindedness. So the article clearly say that please do not denounce traditional medicinal systems. People often ignore it, especially the modern medicine. They completely ignore the efficacy of the traditional system. So it say that do not do that. Please do not do that, because we need to have a better balanced approach. Because I don't be, always I believe that when you talk about the traditional systems, it actually values the experience of generations of practitioner, where you can have more than say thousands of plus years of practice and experience is actually there. Like you can actually take in the example of artemisinin, which was actually a Nobel winning anti-malarial drug. The artemisinin was influenced by a 1600-year-old text from traditional Chinese medicine, which is so likewise always remember about the traditional things. So that is something regarding this article. And let me give you two important questions also. What are the key distinctions between modern medicine and traditional medicines like Ayurveda, and how can they coexisting while promoting rigor? So the key distinctions: how can governments effectively balance the preservation and integration of traditional medicines like Ayurveda with the demands of evidence-based medicine ensuring the health of the population? So what can the government do in this regard, and what are the steps that you should take in? So I think if you can find out the answers from this perspective, it will be really, really good. So quickly moving on to the next is 2023 is going to be the warmest year on record. For very important from the perspective of GS paper 1 geography and the basic concepts of geography, and GS paper 3 environment, biodiversity, and you can actually compare it from the true important perspective. Know it why it is the warmest year. Let's quickly find out the answers, apply the IAS filter, and let's check the important points. Okay, here we go. It talks about global warming because 2023 is probably the year that has become one of the most warmest year in the recorded history, with temperatures almost nearly rising 1.4 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial era. So you know that 1.5 degrees Celsius is the target, and now you can see it has almost crossed 1.4 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial average. So this highlights nothing else but the increase in global warming. Temperatures are soaring, and you can actually see various examples of temperature anomaly, where you can say different temperature. See, the global temperatures in September 2023 were significantly higher than the average from 1991 to 2020. And you know that you can just see from 1991 to 2020, the temperatures in September, when you compare it, the temperatures in September were much more higher, as well as the historical benchmark in the pre-industrial period 1850 to 1900. So when you compare the historical benchmark, the pre-industrial period, and even 1990 to 2020, you can say that the global temperature was much more higher. Again, which shows higher global warming and extreme heat events. A large part of Europe experienced unprecedented heat waves in September, contributing to record breaking temperature. So, this brings in another important question in GS paper 1, geophysical phenomena. What is the concept of heat wave? It is also very important. You must have heard about what is a cold wave. It's important that you know both the concepts. What is the difference between a heat wave and a cold wave? Why do you think that this happens, and what can be done to how can the humans actually cope up with all this? And the next important topics is actually talks about the sea ice extent. So this brings us an important question. What do you mean by sea ice? What is the difference between a sea ice and a sea ice extent? What do you mean? What do you mean by the concept of sea ice and the sea ice extent? So let's quickly and take a look at the small picture that we have here. So this can you can actually see the area. The people are standing here in this picture. You can clearly mark the concept of sea ice, and it's important that you know it from other perspectives. So what is the concept of sea ice? So sea ice is the total sea ice area is the total region covered by the ice, and sea ice extent is the total region with at least 15% sea ice cover. So both are different. Sea ice is the total region covered by ice, but the sea ice extent is at least 50% sea ice cover should be there. And let's check the recent data. The data clearly shows that the Antarctic and Arctic region is, really concerning. In the Antarctic, the sea ice extent has dropped. Again, it has dropped, and in the Arctic, it is experiencing a decline. So both in Antarctica and Arctic Circle, you can clearly see that the sea ice extent has gone down. And also the 1.5 degree threshold for over 80 days in 2023, the global temperatures were at least 1.5 degrees Celsius higher than the pre-industrial levels, indicating the challenge of staying. So you know that the pre-industrial level, you can say 1800s, and again even from 1991 to the present, you can see the temperatures were actually soaring above 1.5 degrees Celsius. But you can see that the Paris Agreement, it's an international climate agreement, which is actually trying to mitigate climate change, has said that we need to keep it below 1.5%. But what happened is, data shows that we are actually going much, much above that. So I think that was regarding the sea ice, and I'm going to give you a question. How does the global temperature trend in 2023 compare to pre-industrial levels, and what are the implications of temperature nearing 1.4 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial average? So what is that? What is sea ice? What is the current state of sea ice extent in the Antarctic and Arctic region? And what are the implications of these trends for climate change and environment? This is a very, very important question. If you can write this question, it will be really, really, really good. So I think these were the important editorials that we had to discuss in today's session. And do subscribe to our channel, LearnStroke IAS classes by Arjun. Share it with your friends, and check out for other important sessions and current affairs and other value additions coming in the channel. So please do stay in touch with us. So thank you, all the future bureaucrats of India.